Chapter 1106, Spare Me Great Lord. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Sakurai Yako's lessons went rather smoothly. The teachers might have received a notice from the school. Thus, when they walked into the classroom, the first thing they did was find where Sakurai Yako was. When the bell rang, the teacher asked Sakurai Yako, "Shall I begin?" Sakurai Yako calmly said, "Go ahead." The students in the classroom were puzzled. This was their first time starting class like this. Their teacher was even more puzzled. Furthermore, he was panicking. The power and ability of the collection of gods could not be ignored, even if one wanted to. Ordinary people still feared practitioners. It was as if practitioners would pay no attention to their lives. The teacher was afraid that if Sakurai Yako was unhappy, she would order someone to kill them. Sakurai Yako felt helpless as well. She did not kill innocent people, but she would not spend her energy explaining this to the teacher. Her position had been decided. No matter whether it was admiration, doubt, or even slander, she could not explain herself to ordinary people like in the past. But the surrounding students suddenly realized a problem. They had all guessed that Sakurai Yako had come to school for Kageyama Hiroshu, but where was he? A student asked in a small voice, "Did anyone see Kageyama Hiroshu?" "No. He usually wakes up very early." "He comes to school early too, but I haven't seen him today," said someone. The students were puzzled. What was happening? Sakurai Yako had come to school, but Kageyama Hiroshu was missing. Lu Shu sat at the back of the car. He looked at Nakagawa Masaharu. "Why do you look so nervous?" It was as if Nakagawa Masaharu had been shocked. "Why should I be nervous?" "You should be the nervous one." Lu Shu patiently comforted him. "Don't be nervous. It'll be fine." "That's right, how much longer will we take?" From Nakagawa Masaharu's distress, plus 666. Needless to say, Nakagawa Masaharu was very nervous. The closer they were to their destination, the more he was perturbed. It was very mysterious. Nakagawa Masaharu thought about it. He suddenly realized that Lu Shu was too relaxed. Suddenly, Oda Masako said, "We are helping a rascal commit villainy like this." When he spoke, the mark of a slave on his wrist started to hurt. Oda Masako almost drove the car into the shop beside them. No one had controlled the mark of a slave to hurt Oda Masako. Oda Masako's words had betrayed his slave owner. The mark of a slave automatically punished him. Lu Shu looked at Oda Masako. He was puzzled but did not say anything. At that moment, the car arrived at a deserted car park. Lu Shu realized that it was a medium-sized supermarket, but there was a closed sign. This was definitely not normal. After all, it was the afternoon. Shops did not typically close at this time. Thus, the slave owner was waiting inside. "Get down," said Nakagawa Masaharu in a cold voice. He stared at Lu Shu, preventing him from doing anything unusual. Lu Shu did not plan to run away. He opened the door straight away and walked into the supermarket. The doors were not locked. The lights were not very bright. A middle-aged man sat behind the counter. He was eating snacks. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. The middle-aged man was dumbfounded as well. Lu Shu paused for 2 seconds. Then, he asked, "Is it good?" From Li Junyi's distress, plus 199. Lu Shu was dumbfounded as he did not expect the slave owner to appear eating snacks. He also did not expect that Li Junyi looked somewhat familiar. However, even though Li Junyi was holding a bag of snacks, Lu Shu did not feel that he was cute. He could only feel a ferocious aura. What was happening? Had he seen him in the Luniverse? Lu Shu's memory was exceptional, but he had seen far too many people in the Luniverse. He might have an impression of them, but there was no need for him to remember everyone he saw. He emitted Class A waves of energy. Lu Shu compared his appearance with Sakurai Yako's description. A squarish face, thick but messy eyebrows, and triangular eyes. Indeed, he was the person who had fought Sakurai Yako. The middle-aged man calmly put down his snacks and stood up. Did they not tell you what you are going to do here? As he spoke, Lee Junyi looked at Nakagawa Masaharu and Oda Masako. Nakagawa Masaharu quickly explained, we have told him that we are kidnapping him. Lee Junyi sighed. Two good-for-nothings. As he spoke, Nakagawa Masaharu and Oda Masako fell to the ground in pain. The mark of a slave was acting up. Lu Shu turned and curiously asked, have I seen you somewhere? Have you been to the palace or Nanging City? Lee Junyi was shocked. What are you talking about? You are from the land of forefathers. How would you know about these places? Have you been to the palace and Nanging City? Are you going to gossip about what I've said here? Nakagawa Masaharu endured the pain and shouted, Master, this fellow is overly arrogant. Please punish him. Nakagawa Masaharu felt that he had been punished because of Lu Shu. Thus, he wanted his slave owner to make Lu Shu suffer like him. To Nakagawa Masaharu, his slave owner was a Class A, killing Kajiyama Hiroshu would be child's play for him. Lee Junyi's expression darkened. He looked at Lu Shu and laughed coldly. He wanted to know why Lu Shu knew about the palace and Nanging City. Nakagawa Masaharu endured the pain and wailed in suffering. He felt that Lu Shu was done for. He looked at Lee Junyi as he struggled. Suddenly, Lu Shu returned to his original appearance. Lee Junyi shouted and knelt on the ground. Spare me, great lord. Nakagawa Masaharu was confused. Oda Masako was dumbfounded. From Lee Junyi's distress, plus 999. From Nakagawa Masaharu's. From. Nakagawa Masaharu felt that he could not understand the world. If his victim was calm, then forget it. Master, what were you doing? Get up, master. But Lee Junyi knelt on the ground. He did not even dare to move. If he was able to move, he would kill Nakagawa Masaharu and Oda Masako. They were supposed to kidnap an ordinary person. There was supposed to be no danger. Why did you bring this person back? What were you doing? Death was knocking on their door. Lee Junyi felt that disaster was upon them. Why did you kidnap him? Were you mad? Lu Shu was happy. Looks like you recognize me. Chapter 1107, Underling. Lu Shu was very sure that he had never seen Lee Junyi before. No. He might have seen him in a crowd, but had never interacted with him. But he knew who Lu Shu was. If not, he would not have knelt when Lu Shu went back to his original appearance. Lu Shu and Lee Junyi knew what was happening, but Nakagawa Masaharu and Oda Masako were dumbfounded when Lee Junyi knelt down. No matter whether they actually relied on Lee Junyi, both of them knew that once the mark of the slave was imposed on them, they would not be able to eliminate it. They would not be able to endure the pain. Lee Junyi, a Class A expert, was very sure that this would not go wrong. What was a Class A on Earth? Class A was the top. The collection of gods was massive, with thousands of practitioners, but Sakurai Yako was the only Class A. Although the heavenly network was called the strongest combat power on the Earth, they only had 4 Class As. Under these circumstances, when a Class A slave owner came from the Luniverse, Nakagawa Masaharu subconsciously treated the Luniverse as a greater civilization. There was nothing wrong with this. If the Earth and the Luniverse fought, the Earth would not be able to win. Thus, for ambitious people like Nakagawa Masaharu whose strength and desires did not complement each other, they would want to cozy up to the Luniverse. But Lu Shu felt that Nakagawa Masaharu had played the wrong cards. He might not be sure what the mark of a slave meant. Nakagawa Masaharu might have thought that he would be able to eliminate the mark of the slave when he became stronger, while not fully understanding the mark of a slave. But Lu Shu could tell him that it was not possible. Even the master under Duanmu Huangqi was unable to eliminate the mark of a slave, let alone a minor character like Nakagawa Masaharu. No matter what, this did not prevent Li Junyi from becoming a great person to Nakagawa Masaharu. But now, this great person was kneeling in front of Lu Shu, shouting, "Spare me, great lord." Nakagawa Masaharu suddenly realized that someone powerful had probably taken on the appearance of Kajiyama Hiroshu. Thus, Sakurai Yeiko was not as weak as they had imagined. Furthermore, the person who Sakurai Yeiko had hugged was not the real Kajiyama Hiroshu. It was the person behind the mask. Who was this person? Nakagawa Masaharu felt that he could not accept this reality. He seemed younger than him. Why was he able to achieve so much? From the look of things, this young man had gone over there. Furthermore, he had occupied a top position. But Lu Shu did not care about what Nakagawa Masaharu thought of him. To Lu Shu, Nakagawa Masaharu was a factor that he could completely ignore. Lu Shu asked, "Where have you seen me?" "I saw you the first time you brought the Weiwu army into Nanging City," said Li Junyi in a low voice. "Back then, I was ordered to disguise myself as a traveling businessman and blend in. I wanted to understand your actions." "Oh," Lu Shu said, "was I targeted even then?" Li Junyi suddenly wailed. "Minor characters like us have always been bullied. We rely on other powers so that we can survive. Please be compassionate. We don't have a choice. When I was young, Lu Shu impatiently interrupted him. "How miserable your past was will only allow me to understand what kind of person you are, but it will not wipe your misdeeds clean. Whose life is not difficult? If your life is difficult, does it mean that you can have no morals?" Li Junyi knelt down even lower. He did not dare to attack Lu Shu, as he knew how strong Lu Shu was. Lu Shu's fame in the Luniverse was far beyond what the people on Earth could imagine. While those on Earth who knew about the situation felt that the Luniverse was strong, many people in the Luniverse feared Lu Shu. No matter whether it was the Day of Blood at the palace, or the massacre of the Black Feather Army, the amount of blood on Lu Shu's hands caused people to fear him. Although Li Junyi was a Class A, was he as strong as the patrons? He did not belong to Duanmu Huangqi. More accurately, he did not even know who he belonged to. But he knew that even a rank 1 expert like him was just a pawn. Nakagawa Masaharu felt that Li Junyi was amazing, but Li Junyi himself knew that Lu Shu had killed 12 people stronger than him in one night. A minor character Nakagawa Masaharu paid no attention to was famous for his ferocity in the Luniverse. His power caused people to fall into despair, as you did not even know how to defeat him. So this was the strongest person besides the masters. Lu Shu casually asked, "Whose orders are you listening to?" Li Junyi replied to him frankly. "We are underlings. We receive resources and techniques, then wait for assignments. We are not allowed to ask for reasons. We are not allowed to ask anything. All we have to do is to carry out our tasks. We don't know whose orders we are listening to. 2 months ago, we suddenly received an order to learn various languages. A teacher who is familiar with the land of forefathers was hired. Then, we patiently waited for the plan to be carried out." Lu Shu was slightly disappointed. He had wanted to catch the slave owner to know what was happening behind the scenes. But his answer shocked Lu Shu. The enemy had nurtured so many rank 1 underlings. This had exceeded that of Duanmu Huangqi's efforts. Lu Shu curiously asked, "We discovered another slave owner in Kuan City, but the moment he was discovered, he poisoned himself. Why are you still alive?" "I am afraid of dying," said Li Junyi in a small voice. "You are rather honest." Lu Shu paused for 2 seconds and took out a coin. "Let's play a game of guessing the coin. If you are right, you may live. If you are wrong, you will die." As Lu Shu spoke, he flicked the coin into the air. Then, he stretched out and caught the coin. Guess. When was this coin produced? Li Junyi was speechless. From Li Junyi's distress, plus 999. In an instant, Li Junyi took out a dagger from his sleeve and charged towards Lu Shu. He attacked not because he knew that they would fight to the death. From the very beginning, he had not planned to give in. He had been waiting for an opportunity. But he was disappointed. From the very beginning, Lu Shu had never been careless. He had not given him a chance either. Nakagawa Masaharu and the rest did not know, but Li Junyi knew very well that no matter how low he knelt, Lu Shu had always been alert and sharp. It was as if his sharpness could kill. Li Junyi tried to deliver the fatal blow, but he was once again disappointed. The moment he got up, Lu Shu acted faster than him. He pressed Li Junyi's neck and sent him to the ground. A rank 1 expert had a strong physique. When Li Junyi was sent to the ground had cracked, but his neck had not fractured. But, it was of no use. Li Junyi felt the concealed arrow piercing through his head like a jade needle. Nakagawa Masaharu was so amazed that he forgot to run away. He did not expect a Class A expert to be killed in just one move. Nakagawa Masaharu had never seen such a tyrannical and invincible person in his entire life. Suddenly, he thought of something. No wonder Sakurai Yeko went to hug him. This was not the male version of Cinderella. When the king returned, even the leader of the collection of gods fell for him. Chapter 1108, School Festival. Li Junyi was dead. Suddenly, Lu Shu understood that he had been targeted early on in the Luniverse. Thus, Lu Shu suddenly realized something. The enemy had come to Earth not to attack the heavenly network. The enemy was targeting Lu Shu. He looked at Nakagawa Masaharu and Oda Masako. Nakagawa Masaharu was in despair. He looked at Lu Shu and asked, "Who in the world are you?" Nakagawa Masaharu suddenly realized that from the beginning, he had felt that this kidnapping was very strange and mysterious. It was not because he was inexperienced. It was simply because he had kidnapped the wrong person. But Lu Shu did not plan to waste time on him. He used the concealed arrow to take away Nakagawa Masaharu's life. To Lu Shu's shock, Oda Masako was calm. He was not as panicky as Nakagawa Masaharu. Lu Shu asked curiously, "Aren't you scared?" Oda Masako asked, "Is there any use in being scared?" "I'm curious," Lu Shu suddenly asked, "why didn't you join the collection of gods?" No matter whether it was Chiba Mahiro, or Nakagawa Masaharu, or Oda Masako, they were all metahumans who had escaped the screening by the collection of gods. They blended in with the ordinary students. Oda Masako calmly said, "I just want to be free." Lu Shu carefully observed Oda Masako. Suddenly, he laughed. "Interesting. Don't worry, I won't kill you." Lu Shu even thought about himself. Back then, he had concealed his strength because he wanted freedom. But Lu Shu could not help Oda Masako, as he had to hand Oda Masako to the collection of gods. He picked up the phone and called Sakurai Yeko. In less than 5 minutes, people came to clean up the scene. The collection of gods had been following Nakagawa Masaharu's car ever since Lu Shu had been kidnapped, but they had not rashly provided assistance. Or, Sakurai Yeko had told them that Lu Shu did not need help. They just needed to help out with logistics. The members of the collection of gods brought Oda Masako away. He would be in detention until Lu Shu left Japan. Lu Shu did not kill him, as he had confirmed that Oda Masako had been forced. Oda Masako was put in detention as they were worried that he would leak information. After all, Lu Shu still had to wait for the other slave owners to arrive. Even the members of the collection of gods who had cleaned up the scene had to be isolated for a period of time. The news of Lu Shu attacking, and the death of a slave owner called Li Junyi could not be leaked. Lu Shu had exposed his real appearance, but he still needed to continue using Kageyama Hiroshi's looks. This kidnapping provided Lu Shu with a new idea. His original plan was to disguise himself as Kageyama Hiroshu and hide in the Kokushikan University campus, but he had been exposed by Sakurai Yako in minutes. Back then, Lu Shu thought that his plan had failed, but the slave owner immediately planned to kidnap him. Would he only be able to succeed through unexpected actions? Lu Shu could not accept this. The members of the collection of gods sent Lu Shu back to Kokushikan University. The students in class looked helplessly as if Kageyama Hiroshu sat down beside Sakurai Yako. Then, Sakurai Yako smiled with extreme happiness. The hearts of all the boys in the class broke. They did not have the courage to chase after Sakurai Yako. They also knew that even without Kageyama Hiroshu, they would not have a chance. But when they saw Sakurai Yako's attitude towards Kageyama Hiroshu, it was difficult for them to endure the heartache. What was good about Kageyama Hiroshu? Sakurai Yako wrote a note to Lu Shu. Has it been settled? Yes. Lu Shu wrote on the note. But he was only one of many. I still have to continue waiting for the arrival of the other slave owners. Sakurai Yako wrote. Then that's good. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Hey, you were still in danger. Could you be a bit more serious about your own safety? But now, Sakurai Yako was in a very relaxed state. It was as if she had regained the campus life that she had lost. In the afternoon, Sakurai Yako brought Lu Shu to the school festival. The students in the campus grouped together in their classes or societies. They had prepared exhibitions or food stands. Lu Shu followed behind Sakurai Yako, who seemed very happy. He felt infected by her happiness. In the previous era of the collection of gods, Sakurai Yako had attended school with a purpose. When the era was brought to a close by Lu Shu and Coral, Sakurai Yako bid goodbye to her school days. Thus, the school festival was a pleasant surprise to Sakurai Yako. Lu Shu followed behind Sakurai Yako. To his surprise, there were food stalls selling Chinese xiaolongbaos 1. Sakurai Yako took out her wallet and said in a small voice, Lu Shu-kun, let me treat you. Lu Shu did not mind. Sakurai Yako was the leader of the collection of gods. She was definitely rich. Treating him would not be too much for her. But he did not know how important this was to Sakurai Yako, but her entourage, Motegi Toshimitsu, knew. Sakurai Yako only had a few 100,000 yen in her wallet. She carried it around everywhere she went, but had never spent it. Comment. Lu Shu picked up a small xiaolongbao and put it in his mouth. Sakurai Yako looked at him. Is it good? Lu Shu smiled. It's definitely incomparable to what we have back home. If you have the chance to come, I can bring you to eat good ones. Really? Sakurai Yako's eyes lit up. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. He had said it out of politeness, as he knew that although the collection of gods was not in an antagonistic relationship with the heavenly network, it would be difficult for the leader of the collection of gods to freely enjoy delicacies in China. But when Lu Shu looked at Sakurai Yako's expression, he suddenly realized that she had actual plans for this. The surrounding students were nervous when they saw Sakurai Yako and Lu Shu walk by. This was not an exception. This was their basic instinct. The students involuntarily gave way to them. The stall owners would be unusually friendly when they visited their stall. It was as if the Grand School Festival of Kokushikan University had been organized for them. Furthermore, Lu Shu realized that students were not the only participants in this grand and crowded ceremony. He saw many members of the collection of gods and workers disguised as students, but their disguises were shoddy. Chapter 1109, A Young Girl's Emotions. Lu Shu felt that he could be considered an experienced spy. Although he exposed his impersonations often, that did not affect how he regarded himself as the spy expert. Therefore, although the members of the collection of gods had came prepared, there was an obvious difference between students and members of the public. For example, the middle-aged man who looked like he was over 40 years old. Was he serious about wearing a school uniform? Lu Shu looked at the middle-aged man who was making soba noodles. Uncle, you have stayed back for quite a lot of years. From Kuroda Kiyotaka's Distress, plus 299. Although the school festival was like an open house, Waseda University's school festival could attract up to 150,000 people. Only students were allowed to run stalls. However, the collection of gods operated strangely. For Kokushikan University's school festival, they added over hundreds of stalls and added some traditional performances. The stalls of the collection of gods made the entire school festival upgrade several levels. That was because the collection of gods did it after receiving instructions and even invited professional performers. Lu Shu stood quietly amongst the crowd, beside Sakurai Yeiko. He suddenly realized that Sakurai Yeiko was showing him the best side of the school festival quietly. The students of the Kokushikan University sensed the unusual vibes too. In the past, they had participated in school festivals. After all, students were not professionals. The signboard of their stalls were drawn on A4-sized paper and looked sluggish. If there was a student whose special project was particularly exciting, there would be many people in front of his stall. This year's school festival was evidently different. It felt as though an experienced event organizer suddenly organized an insane party in Kokushikan University. They knew that it was Sakurai Yeiko's doing. In the morning when Sakurai Yeiko saw the students who were getting ready for the school festival, the collection of gods began to start work. They invited the famous clients such as the dorayaki maker from Kita City in Tokyo, Kochoen Senba, the best soba noodle maker in Gifu Prefecture, and there were too many clients. The members of the collection of gods were busy like bees. They fetched each client to Kokushikan University in the cars of the collection of gods and gave them Kokushikan University's uniforms. There were also performances such as the drums, song and dance performances. The stage setup and costume preparation felt as though the special forces were getting ready for a battle. The members of the collection of gods used the most effective method to make them appear in the school compound of Kokushikan University. The students felt as though they were in a magical world. The food that they long craved for and their favorite performances were all in front of their eyes. In the end, the students abandoned their stalls. They were supposed to organize the school festival, but now, they became the guests. After hearing about the situation in the Kokushikan University, the students living near Setagaya drove over. Even the other residents in Tokyo rushed over as it was rare for so many famous food and classic performances to be found together at one venue. Ordinary people would not be able to invite these famous stores to participate in events, unless the collection of gods invited them. The students suddenly felt that this school festival seemed to be a present specially prepared for Lu Shu by Sakurai Yeiko. It was an unexplainable happiness that a young girl felt. She wanted to give the best to Lu Shu. She asked the collection of gods to move the entire country's specialty food and interesting performances to the school. It seemed as though she was telling Lu Shu, "This is what I can do for you, I can give you everything." At this moment, the students of the Kokushikan University were both envious and thankful for Lu Shu. If not for Sakurai Yeiko, they would not have been able to experience an unforgettable school festival. Lu Shu laughed helplessly as he looked at Sakurai Yeiko. Sakurai Yeiko knew that she was exposed and hence felt embarrassed. However, instead of admitting it, she tugged Lu Shu's sleeves. "Let's go, there is a magic show ahead." As they arrived at the stage of the magic show, a staff wearing a cartoon costume distributed a small slip of paper to everyone in the audience. The small slip of paper had a number printed on it. Lu Shu asked curiously, "What is this slip of paper used for?" The staff explained, "After the magic show, there will be a lucky draw. The magician will draw a piece of paper and the person with the same number as that on the paper will win a free prize." Lu Shu looked at his number, 52. The magic show was very interesting. Some students quickly recognized the magician who was wearing their school uniform. It was none other than Matsukata Masayoshi, the most famous magician in Japan. Then, during the lucky draw segment, the magician put his hand into the box filled with slips of paper. I wonder who will be the lucky winner amongst the audience. The next moment, he took out a piece of paper and showed it to the audience. 52. Where is number 52? Lu Shu smiled and raised his slip of paper, signaling that he was the lucky winner. Everything seemed to be a seamless coincidence. However, everyone knew that this coincidence was specially prepared for Lu Shu. At this moment, the staff took out a huge bouquet of flowers and passed it to Lu Shu. This is the special gift, you can give it to your partner. Lu Shu did not know how to react. The second part of the sentence could not be more obvious. Everything that happened tonight was not only a gift that Sakurai Yeko specially prepared for Lu Shu, but also a chance for her to fulfill her wishes. Before Lu Shu could react, Sakurai Yeko snatched the bouquet of flowers from Lu Shu and smiled to the magician. Thank you. Then, Sakurai Yeko ran to another venue while pulling onto Lu Shu's sleeves. The students and the Tokyo residents behind them had complicated emotions. Everyone knew that in this party, they were merely a foil. The big shots who were invited by the collection of gods suddenly felt that this school festival was very interesting. They looked at the audience and residents who came for them. They suddenly wondered if it was a good idea to hold a school festival every year in this school. As they experienced the atmosphere in the school with the school uniform, they felt that they were a few years younger. That night, the managers of the famous stores had a discussion and decided to continue doing this in the future. Suddenly someone said, "What should we name the special school festival?" School festivals should have a special name as their theme. That was the purpose of the school festival. The magician smiled. Why not name it A Young Girl's Emotions? The managers of the famous stores looked at each other. Seems pretty fitting, let's name it that. Chapter 11:10, When in Rome, Do as the Romans Do. The Young Girls' Worry School Festival seemed to be destined to become a unique scene in Tokyo since it was born. Influential people crowded here. Overseas tourists and local foodies alike took delight in eating the delicacies here. This place had everything that one could wish for. Even rare traditional performances gathered here. These performances were not aimed at young girls, but everyone felt that there was nothing wrong with this naming. This school festival existed because of a young girl's worry. When the magician packed up his equipment, he opened up the lucky draw box. He could not help but laugh. All the pieces of paper in the box had 52 written on them. It must be nice to be young, the magician sighed with emotion. He took out a mirror and looked at himself. He was an aged man. He recalled that when he was young, there had been a girl who was willing to do everything to make him like her. The magician sighed. I suddenly feel old. It's really awkward wearing this school uniform. His assistant comforted him. It's not awkward. Many students in movies are played by actors your age. The magician turned and looked at his assistant. There are delivery men, plumbers, and bus drivers who are my age in these movies too, right? His assistant was pleasantly surprised. Yes, yes, yes. Go away. The fleet of cars from the collection of gods brought Lu Shu and Sakurai Yeko back to the dojo. On the way, Motegi Toshimitsu sat on the passenger seat, while Sakurai Yeko sat at the back with Lu Shu, holding a bouquet of flowers in her hands. One of the members of her entourage felt that it might be inconvenient for Sakurai Yeko to carry such a large bouquet of flowers, and wanted to help her hold it, but Sakurai Yeko's gaze then could kill. When they got down, Motegi Toshimitsu did not ask Sakurai Yeko whether she would return to her residence that night. She led the fleet of cars away. She was very obedient. If Motegi Toshimitsu still had any doubts about Sakurai Yeko's worries before this, she would have understood everything after the school festival. Sakurai Yeko unwrapped the bouquet. Then, she trimmed the stems and placed the flowers into glass bottles. Not long after, the small courtyard turned into a blooming flower garden. It was full of ornaments. She returned to her room and changed into her kimono. Then, she walked out and smiled at Lu Shu. "Lu Shu-kun, let's watch some movies." Lu Shu was dumbfounded. Again? When Sakurai Yeko saw his reaction, she explained, "Lu Shu-kun, when you visit a place, you must eat the local delicacies, right? Thus, you have to watch local movies as well." Thus, Sakurai Yeko and Lu Shu watched Kaiji, Crows Zero, and Spirited Away. They spent the night watching movies. From Sakurai Yeko's distress, plus 888. Was Lu Shu dumb? Of course not. In the morning, Lu Shu rode a bicycle to school, like he had done in the past. On the other hand, Motegi Toshimitsu, who was in charge of sending Sakurai Yeko, could not help but observe her. Motegi Toshimitsu was over 30 years old and was experienced. But she realized that there was no change in Sakurai Yeko. Suddenly, she thought of something. Was that person okay? The fleet of cars set off. There was no change in Sakurai Yeko's expression. However, when the fleet of cars reached the entrance of Kokushikan University, Motegi Toshimitsu heard something from her earpiece. She was dumbfounded. Sakurai Yeko asked, "What's wrong?" Motegi Toshimitsu turned and said to Sakurai Yeko, "He has been kidnapped again." Kidnapped, again. Sakurai Yeko was speechless. Although everyone knew that nothing would happen to Lu Shu if he was kidnapped, he could not be kidnapped so many times, right? However, before the first period began, Lu Shu walked into the classroom. Motegi Toshimitsu waited at the Faculty of Science and Engineering. When she saw Lu Shu walk past, she was dumbfounded. Had it been settled? Lu Shu walked back and said, "Please help to clean up apartment 13 at Yumagaoka." Motegi Toshimitsu was speechless. In the past, the public had complained that the collection of gods was too brutal in killing. Suddenly, she felt that the fierce murderous intent that the collection of gods portrayed was nothing compared to Lu Shu. To be honest, she did not know what dispute Lu Shu had with the powers from the Luniverse. To Lu Shu, the moment the 21 tattooed patrons appeared at the end of the limestone road, he was fully prepared. He wanted to enjoy a peaceful life. He did not even want to go to the Luniverse again. But it seemed like he had no say in this. Lu Shu detested this feeling. He did not like being remembered like this. But this time, Lu Shu was rather surprised that although the slave owner had attacked, this slave owner was only a Class B. Lu Shu did not even have to do anything. When he was kidnapped and brought to the apartment, he returned to his original appearance. The slave owner ate the poison in his mouth and killed himself. Lu Shu could not say anything about this. More accurately, he had been scared to death by Lu Shu's appearance. Lu Shu felt that this was strange. It made it sound as if his appearance was hideous. If Motegi Toshimitsu knew how Lu Shu's name in the Luniverse could cause people to commit suicide when they saw him, no one knew how shocked she would be. Lu Shu deduced that this slave owner had been hiding in the collection of gods for a long time. He had probably come to Japan with Li Junyi. Earlier, the Heavenly Network had deduced that when the space pathway opened for the second time, a large number of slave owners entered North America. Thus, there was the bad news that the slave owners were everywhere. Recently, the Heavenly Network had received requests for assistance from various Southeast Asian organizations, as they had no way to deal with these slave owners. There were strong and weak slave owners, but even the weakest slave owner was a Class B. This was the foundation of the Luniverse. No matter whether they were Class B or Class A, the Southeast Asian organizations could not handle them. But the Heavenly Network did not easily accept their requests, as they had to protect their own territory first. They could not help other people by sacrificing their own manpower. But they could not ignore their allies either. They had to reply to them, right? Sure, Shuejin felt that this was very simple. Then, Hao Jichao said to their allies, "Relax. They have been attracted by the collection of gods. They will not have the time to disturb you for now. The leaders of the ally organizations panicked. But they will return. Hao Jichao patiently explained. Relax, they will not return. Lu Shu had deduced that there were more than 2 slave owners in Japan, but the other slave owners probably did not dare to act rashly. Now, he had to wait for the guests who were about to arrive. Lackeys like Li Junyi were not important, but Lu Shu felt that with such a detailed plan, the mastermind would definitely follow the slave owners to Earth. If he found this mastermind, he might be able to clear some of his doubts.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty. Man, we just putting on the show. Try to look to the heavens.